I think most of us would agree with what I described so far, perhaps not exactly the language or the urgency, but even if you don't, the real question is not for an agreement on that, but to figure out how do we move forward in this. And I apologize for a pedantic side trip. I want to provide a couple of definitions. For the purpose of this talk, electric car is something that always relies on electricity for its movement. I came up with an unfortunate sounding name, which is only comparable in unfortunate sounding equivalent. I call it dual fuel car because it can use electricity first and gasoline after. It doesn't have any electricity. And I came up with it because I dislike PHEV even more. But let's not get stuck on it. The equivalence having been established, I want to move on and give you a factoid. By every statistic, something like 80% of U.S. drivers drive fewer than 40 miles per day. Not every day, but on average. Consequently, if you magically convert the fleet of cars into a dual fuel operation with a 40-mile electric range, the average car will cut gasoline used by more than half. A corollary of this factoid is if you converted just the 100 million large form factor cars on U.S. roads, which are the low end of mileage, that conversion alone would save half of our oiling costs and would create a completely different dynamic in the world market for the rest of it. So I would like to propose that our focus, for all the reasons I talked about, is simplified, and we think of job one, the task that we have to do even if we don't do anything else, is to take a large step towards introducing electricity into transportation. And because of the factories that I proposed, I would like to take aim at the large form factor cars. I can come up with TLAs as well. I call them PSVs for pickups, SUVs, and vans. Large form factor, space for retrofits, space for batteries, and lousy mileage. And aim to bring them as a fleet to the 40 mile per day electric range to achieve that half reduction. All of it summarized there. This is a very hard task. Somebody that knows this area a whole lot better than me said it's borderline undoable. I like that. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. We have issues everywhere. We have issues with infrastructure, battery costs, and carbon emission, and most importantly, with ramping up the numbers. Let me address each of those for just a second. We have enough physical reserve in the grid infrastructure to allow us to convert 50 to 60 million cars at the intersection of those two lines, vehicles, large vehicles, before we run into physical infrastructure limitations. The way we do that is we use the grid when people are asleep. Cars can become a distributed storage on the grid and even out the operation of the grid, which most things, when we operate at a steady level, operate more efficiently. Battery costs are a clear problem. Battery volume production is actually a problem. But, I come from an industry, and a lot of us here come from an industry where we have gotten used to a steady reduction with experience, with volume, with technology of the unit cost. I'm referring to Moore's law. And if you look at the data retrospectively, unbeknownst to most people, battery cost seems to follow a less aggressive Moore's law, less steep decline on a 7-watt charge than transistors do, but a decline nonetheless. We need to accelerate that decline because if I take as a target a pickup truck, the most popular pickup truck being the Ford F-150 in the United States, for that to have a 40-mile electric range, that charge goes up far too long, 5-6 years. But I don't think we have spent the kind of energy on better technology and very volume-related cost improvements as we have in the semiconductor industry. And I have full confidence that we introduce a break in that line, making it more steep. Carbon emission comes for free. Carbon emission reduction comes for free. Turns out that because the process of converting in large generator plants coal, like whatever fuel, the plastic or coal, to electricity, and then drive the car with electric means is more efficient than using liquid fuel-based engines, ordinary internal combustion engines. The mere act of conversion, without doing anything about the carbon dioxide, that efficiency will give us, for the same number of miles driven, at 50%, give or take 10 percentage point reduction in carbon emission. Not very easy to achieve with a single strategy. If we combine that with taking advantage of the fact that carbon dioxide is water soluble and with suitable governmental policy requiring the removal of the carbon dioxide so that it is not left to the voluntary goodwill of the operators to decide whether they do it or not, but it's mandated like seat belts and everything else in the car industry has been mandated before it happened. I think we could probably increase that percentage in a fairly rapid order in a very major way. But the hardest problem is to do, all of this depends on making, by the measures of ramping up new technology, a very difficult task of achieving a meaningful volume.